Hi everyone. Welcome to the Peer Facilitator virtual information session. My name's Jess, and I've been a PF for 4 semesters. This is my final semester, and I'm sad about it. But we are going to talk a little bit about what the position entails and then answer any questions you might have about the position. Next slide. Thanks. So an overview of the position, our mission as peer facilitators is to mentor leadership growth through interactive course content, that is the lab ALA 175, discussion and team collaboration. Requirements for the position, you will work about 5 to 10 hours a week, and shared responsibilities include attending all peer facilitator trainings and lab sessions, hosting weekly office hours, grading assignments, and peer advising and mentoring. And the pay is $13.50 an hour. Next slide.
All right, I'm going to talk a bit about the facilitator training. My name is Ariel. I've been a PF for 4 semesters also, and I'm going to continue next year. So for the first half of the semester, we have trainings on Mondays from 7 to 9 p.m. and you'll get to practice public speaking. We have a bunch of case studies and we'll together look at how you can deal with group dynamic issues or how to resolve conflicts in case these happen in the classroom. And each week you'll have some reflection activities and deliverables for you to complete. You'll do the readings as they are wrote out in the lab and kind of think about how can you facilitate those activities and what are the key points to point out for the students. You'll get to know your team and learn more about the BLI. Next slide.
Okay, I'm going to be talking about the ALA 175 Leadership Lab. My name is Ashley, and I've been a PF for 2 semesters. So I'll be a PF again in the fall and winter, and Ariel and I will actually be the lead PF, so I'm super excited about that. So for the ALA 175 Leadership Lab, it's a peer-led leadership course by the peer facilitators, and there's interactive collaboration and stakeholder engagement. So we have readings and videos that you watch, and we do weekly deliverables, individual and within your groups. And then we talk about those in class and also incorporate different BLI leadership labs and different aspects of the BLI in general. So as a peer facilitator, we facilitate activities and we have one-on-one mentorship or meetings with our teams or students. And we grade assignments that are turned in weekly, and we hold weekly office hours. So you go in the office at Weiser Hall and you hold your office hours for 2 hours and you do things like grade assignments and send reminder emails and email any students updates or answer any questions they have.
I can talk about how to apply. So you can learn more about the role and apply on the BLI website. You can also get in touch with any one of us and we'll be happy to answer any of your questions. And the deadline to apply is April 29th, and you'll get interview notification by May 1st, and final decisions will come out by mid-May. Next slide, if there's any.
And that's it. If any folks have any questions or comments.
What's your favorite part about being a PF?
Wow, Jaylene, thanks for the question. My favorite part about being a peer facilitator is I have so many favorite parts. One of them is being able to build those connections not only with the students in the lab, but also with my teaching team and my peer facilitator team. I have been a lead peer facilitator for the past 2 semesters, which means that I have worked to train incoming peer facilitators for the training the first half of the semester. And so getting to know everyone has been a joy, watching everyone grow as a leader, both in training and then students in the lab as well.
I saw that Mary asked, what if you're not a great public speaker? So I can answer that. I think that the training really helps with that. I personally didn't struggle a bunch with public speaking. Like I had some experience from high school when I came to college, but I was definitely nervous in the lab. So in the 6-week training, how we practice facilitating with our fellow peer facilitators, that really helped, and just like watching videos about public speaking and different readings and stuff, that helped with that. But I think practice just helps with experience. So doing that in the training gave me a feel for what it was going to be like in the real lab. And also the minutes and the slides really help like keep on track with the course. So that makes things easier too, because you're prepared and you know what you're going to be talking about.
On top of that, during the lab, you also have a teaching team, so a couple other PFs facilitating with you, and they'll like always be happy to support you when you maybe forget something or they will add on to what you said. So no worries, we are a very supportive team. There's a question, we'll go down the list. So after the 6-week training in the fall semesters, we get started facilitating the course in winter then? So the answer is the 6 weeks training happened in the first half of the fall semester, and then for the second half of the semester, there's the lab, and it runs like that every semester. Anyone want to take the next question?
Yeah, I can do that. So our friend Kate asked, what is the hardest part of being I'm going to assume she meant peer facilitator, PF. What is the hardest part of being a PF? She said, haha, yes. So wonderful. Anyone can feel free to chime in with any answers to questions, any follow-ups as well. Hardest part of being a PF. I think especially for this semester, given that we're all learning remotely and all the classes have been moved to the online format, the hardest part for me has been adjusting to the online format, because this class is it's interactive, you collaborate with people, you meet in groups, and a lot of the activities hinge upon being in person to complete them. And so having that transition to the online format for the first time ever, a lot of us haven't done this before, has been difficult, but the teaching teams have all been wonderful in being accommodating and flexible, answering questions students have, and taking in feedback. So I would say that.
On top of that, I remember something that was difficult when I started as a PF was kind of like finding that balance between I'm a peer to every student in this room, but also I am teaching this class, and kind of sometimes I need to be like the teacher person to be like, hey, you need to do this, or like this is too big of a project, it's not possible. So although we have these case studies during the training, sometimes just things happen, like unexpected things happen, and sometimes it's hard to be like, hey, that's not okay, but also be like, hey, I can be your friend. So finding that balance could be hard at first.
The next question, what does a typical work week look like? So during the first 6 weeks, we have the training, so that's 7 to 9 p.m. every Monday. And then once the leadership lab starts, you meet an hour before your lab time. So for example, if you had lab Monday 7 to 9, you'd come into Weiser Hall at 6, and you do a prep meeting for the first hour. And then you get everything set up for the lab, like the little cubbies and stuff like that. And you go over minutes and slides, which another statement was, can you define what minutes are? So it's a spreadsheet, and it has the items we're going to be doing in the lab, and an explanation and a description and the purpose of that activity. And then it has like the time limit and then the time frame we'll be doing that, so it keeps us on track. And then in our prep meeting, we designate a PF and then a supporting PF for the lab. So that's the person that'll be talking or explaining that part of the lab. And then the supporting PF will jump in if you're having like any trouble explaining anything or if they want to add anything. And everyone else in the lab will kind of jump into and add things along the way throughout the lab. But for the typical work week, so once lab starts, you meet the hour before to prep, and then you have the 2-hour lab. And then after the lab, we stay after just for a little bit to debrief and talk about how the lab went and then kind of get some feedback about how we were facilitating. And then you hold your office hours that are 2 hours every week. And that's pretty much everything. And then, you know, sometimes you'll get random emails throughout the week, so then answering those and logging hours for those as well.
And so that's about the minimum that we at the BLI would expect for you to put into the position, like the 2 or 3 hours for the lab and then your 2 hours of office hours per week. But if you're looking to make some more money or you want to be more involved, there are always other events that the BLI puts on that you can come help set up or come chat with students, and those would also be paid time. All right, I can answer the next question. What was a challenge that y'all have faced in the role of, if applicable, and how did you deal with it? I think a challenge for me personally would be from my first semester as a peer facilitator, because despite kind of going back to the public speaking question, I was super nervous to do any kind of public speaking. And I just wasn't super confident in myself. And like we did some work with that in the training, but it was the first day of leadership lab and I was so nervous, but it went great. I was just nervous to like be in front of a classroom live for the first time and like how the audience is responding to my teaching style, I suppose. And so it took me a little bit of time to feel more comfortable in front of the students, like facilitating material. And so that would be my challenge, I think.
Another thing I thought of was sometimes in the lab, we run a lot of energizers like at the beginning of each lab, and then sometimes these don't work out well. I remember one time it was just like really dry and people are not enjoying it at all, so it's really awkward, and people are not participating. So like when the activity, I think the activity was scheduled for like 10 or 15 minutes and we had to end it early, and then came back feeling super awkward and be like, hey, next time we can think of something else. So that's like how we deal with it. It's like, it's okay if these don't turn out that well, but it's useful feedback for us to take, like what kind of activities will be more suitable for next time and things like that. Another thing I also thought of is time management during the lab. So sometimes, like to answer Fatima's questions as well, can you define what minutes are? So minutes are essentially a spreadsheet that we referred to during the lab, and it has the 2 hours planned out minute by minute. So say like first 10 minutes, we're going to do introduction, and then the next 12 minutes, we're going to do a bonding activity. So it's really detailed, and it writes down, it has like the activity description and purpose of the activity and things like that. So it's a really useful document. And sometimes it doesn't go as planned. So we need to think on the spot and be like, we can like reduce this activity by X minutes to compensate for a time, or like we can do team time for a little bit more because we have more time. So we need to be really flexible and change the slides on the spot and things like that. So If anyone want to add on to that. Shall we take the next question?
Yeah. Yeah, to come through and want to be or become peer facilitators don't have that teaching experience. And so that's the purpose of the training. It can be really intimidating at first to walk in, and the peer facilitator training every semester, it happens every semester. So when you're a new PF, it's very useful. But then also when you're a returning PF, you come back and you still do the training to keep things fresh, and we try to keep the activities like new and exciting so that returning PFs are still getting something out of it. But for new PFs, if you don't have any experience, we do kind of teach you, I guess, or we give you the opportunity to try facilitating it in front of other people. We'll have like little sample presentations you can give in front of the audience of the rest of the peer facilitators. And like Ariel was mentioning earlier, we have different case studies, which are like scenarios that could happen in a classroom. Like there's a disruption or something, and then how do we handle that? So we can look at these issues before we're in the classroom and we have to deal with them real time. We can kind of prepare and see, oh, so if this thing happens in the classroom, how can I be better equipped to handle it? And so we give you the tools you need to be able to be an effective facilitator in the training. And it also comes with experience. Like as you continue to be a peer facilitator, each semester you pick up on more and you learn more and you become more comfortable in the role.
For the difference in responsibility, that kind of goes back to what Jess was saying. So like a first year PF and a returning PF, it's like technically the same responsibility, like work-wise, like you still have your office hours and you still do the training. But the returning PFs can kind of mentor new PFs and answer any questions and help them. Like I know someone that was in my lab who became a PF, like they had questions this semester about grading. So they reached out to me and like I was more than happy to help them and figure that out. So yeah, you just kind of mentor other PFs if they have any questions that maybe are minor or major questions that can help them through the process of learning how facilitating works.
The next question I can answer. Do you ever get to do other work at the BLA? Are there other opportunities to try different things? Yes, and there's a ton of them. And like one thing I can think of is recruitment activities. So we always have those campus day events where like admitted U of M students come visit, and we would set up a booth and talk to folks and answer their questions. And also just like random tabling events or festival and anything like that, we all like are present there. In terms of other than that, like for example, a couple semesters back, I was involved in a project where we looked at the course evaluation for one of the semesters of lab, and I learned to do like qualitative coding for those data, and we get to present to other BLA folks what our findings are. So I think that was really cool.
Are there any additional questions, comments, follow-ups? Well, I guess, thank you for taking the time to answer our questions. You're very welcome. Awesome. All right. Well, I guess that concludes this information session. This Zoom meeting was recorded so that you will have access to it later, or folks will have access to it later, even if they weren't able to make the meeting. And Thanks for stopping by.